This film is one of my all-time favourite films. In fact, it's probably up there near the top of the list of films that I hardly feel qualified to even talk about, because when I do talk about it, I want to do it justice for the masterpiece that it truly is. So here goes. Kill Bill, or more formally Killian William, which is the stupidest joke I've ever made, is a 2003 film directed by Quentin Tarantino, written by Tarantino, with the story credit going to Q&U, which is of course Tarantino and all-around badass Uma Thurman. The two actually came up with a plot while filming Pulp Fiction together because shooting one culturally iconic film wasn't enough, so why not invent another one while you're at it? As you've probably guessed by the title, this film has a stupid amount of depth to it, and I'm going to do my best to distill it down into this little bite-sized nugget of a video for all you lovely people who will hopefully like, comment and subscribe if you like the words and pictures you see in here. So let's peel this ogre and see what's inside. The obvious place to start here is with the plot. On its surface, Kill Bill is a simple story of revenge. A bride who is gunned down at a wedding by a gang of assassins sent by her baby daddy awakens from a coma and sets out to kill everyone involved, striking them off her list as she goes. We're presented with this straight away with the first two scenes. The bride gets shot by Bill in scene 1. She goes to kill her first attacker in scene 2. Boom, that's the entire plot summed up in the first few minutes of action. Fun little side fact, the role of Bill was originally written for Warren Beatty, but as the story evolved, it was rewritten for David Carradine. And talking of scenes, Tarantino took the unusual approach of shooting the entire movie in sequence, meaning that scene 1 was shot first, scene 2 was next, etc, etc. Now, I normally wouldn't call people out in a video, but I've got to highlight this quote. Kill Bill is admittedly little more than a stylish revenge thriller, albeit one that benefits from a wildly inventive surfeit of style. Damn the consensus of critics on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm going to have to hard disagree on that one. If I remove the words Kill Bill from that quote and replace it with another one of my all-time favourite films, namely John Wick, it would fit just as well and be just as wrong. But the two are nothing alike, I hear you say. Well, both of those films are action-packed, brutally violent and grounded revenge stories centred around one character who is the focus of almost every scene, is the most feared assassin in the world and is practically the stuff of legend, puts that life on hold, and is then forced to come back into that world due to a personal vendetta that they have to satisfy as they work their way through a list of names which is made harder by the fact that the world of assassins they inhabit contains rules which would make their tasks impossible were they to break them. Whew. Essentially what I'm saying is that Kill Bill was John Wick before John Wick. Not just the plotline, but the artistry too. We'll get to that later, but for the sake of this comparison, the cinematography, the lighting, the choreography, everything is kicked up to 11 in both these films, and it pays off big time. Both are stunning instant classics. Little more than a stylish revenge thriller? Okay. This film is far from a hodgepodge of various random things thrown together. Everything that's in here is here for a reason, and for most of it the reason is Tarantino giving a nod to his influences. The overall style of the film was inspired by Grindhouse cinema. They're those little movie theatres that sell cheap tickets to low-budget B-movies like westerns and martial arts flicks. Hell, we even have a tribute to Shaw Brothers Studio before the film even begins. Going back to the very first scene, we have a black and white shot giving us a film noir vibe. Elle Driver whistles the theme from horror movie Twisted Nerve as she dresses up as the classic horror trope of the killer nurse as she goes to assassinate the bride in the hospital. This was actually later used in American Horror Story as well. When the bride encounters someone on her kill list, we get this iconic sound effect from Ironside and a flashing red screen with superimposed flashbacks, which is originally from the movie Death Rides a Horse, whose protagonist is called Bill. We also get the theme music from Death Rides a Horse when the bride confronts Oren Ishii. While I'm talking about Oren, the scene in which the bride and Oren face off, this magnificent scene kind of blows my mind. A Latin disco song plays as the overall theme of paying tribute to classic martial arts films comes to a head in a setting paying homage to a restaurant that Tarantino had visited prior to the film being developed. That's the context for this final confrontation, and the fact that all of that is put together on screen and not only works but knocks it out of the park is amazing. The animated sequence, which I absolutely adore, produced by Production IG, is in itself a tribute to the violent and over-the-top and heavily stylized genre of action anime, popular in Japanese culture and increasingly worldwide at the time. In fact, the anime part leads me nicely into talking about the choreography for the film, which was carried out by Woo Ping-yun, who was responsible for choreographing The Matrix and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, among others. He's the man responsible for this beautiful, brutal ballet of katana kills and sophisticated swordplay skirmishes. So what do choreography and animation have to do with each other, you may ask? Well, both of these contribute to giving Kill Bill this sense of it being an homage to all of these different things, often bordering on and sometimes venturing into the realms of parody, while also creating its own narrative and iconic sequences, which make this a brilliant movie in its own right. It does a Hot Fuzz, again one of my favourite films, a film that parodies and pays tribute to many different genres, while also telling its own story and making its own points about the genres it's parodying. I've now compared Kill Bill to John Wick and Hot Fuzz, and honestly I think those are two of the biggest compliments I could give it. The fact that it manages to be both of them at once is amazing to me. But I'm not finished yet. One of the less obvious themes here is the idea of commitment. The first thing we see is a wedding. It's the aftermath of the bride being beaten half to death at a wedding, but still. In fact, I believe that this might have been a point that Tarantino was either intentionally or subconsciously making. The only main character to get into any kind of relationship is the bride, and that gets her shot in the head. The characters in this film are all committed, but it is to their life and to their jobs. Oren, Vernita, Bill, Elle, none of these are in a relationship. Hell, Gogo Yubari, Oren's bodyguard, outright does this to a dude for admitting he wants to sleep with her. Without saying a word, this film equates relationships with pain and loss and death. Even the relationship between a mother and a daughter. The world of assassins and Yakuza is no place for romantic entanglement, at least not for the highest flyers of this realm. That can be left to those on the outside, to the Charlie Browns of the world. Instead, you commit yourself to your job as a Yakuza boss. You commit yourself to being an assassin. You commit yourself to your kill list, or even just to wiggling your big toe. Okay, so I could go on for hours about every brilliant thing in this film, but it would take me more time than it takes to actually watch it. I had a whole thing about Reservoir Dogs and title cards and stuff too, but this is already like a full dissertation. I'll just mention a few details I love before we move on. The cereal Vernita shoots through is called Kaboom. The sunglasses on the sheriff's dashboard, which immediately tells us he's a total douchebag. The fact the bride's name is censored, but if you're observant, you can see it on her plane tickets. The entire sequence in Okinawa with Hattori Hanzo, the comedy, the dialogue, the atmosphere, the attic scene.
May I?
You may.
The way he writes Bill's name with the same precision with which he makes a katana, and the way you can just feel his pain. And then how the bride just rubs it out. You know, because she's gonna rub Bill out and also erase some of the guilt Hanzo feels for training Bill. She even goes back to get the last bit that she missed to complete the job. The katana ceremony is beautiful, and the infamous Oren Ishii head scene is played to perfection by Lucy Liu. Anyway, I feel like if I go any deeper into this movie I'll never come back out again, so I'm going to finish off with this. I mentioned earlier that the theme from Death Rides a Horse plays when the bride calls out Oren, and that is just one great example of how music is used in Kill Bill. It creates the final showdown atmosphere for that scene, just how somehow Please Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood proves to be the most amazing song to punctuate the build-up to Oren and the bride's final clash in the snow. The music in Kill Bill is used to set the tone of the film.
He shot me down, bang, bang.
To introduce us to characters so that we immediately get a feel for their personalities. To tell a whole story. To simply make a badass entrance. or to highlight something by having the music stop altogether. But most important of all, it's used to blend all of the different elements of this film together. Remember, this is an homage to different genres of film that also tells its own independent story which comments on those genres. So I can think of no better way to highlight that than with the music. A mix of modern songs and themes from old movies and instrumentals from Japanese artists, all combining to pay tribute to what came before while making something completely new and unlike anything we've seen before. That is the true beauty of Kill Bill. Well, besides all the actual beauty thanks to legendary cinematographer Robert Richardson, because hot damn this film is gorgeously shot. I think I pick a new favourite shot every time I watch this movie because there are just so many to choose from. We'll finish off by circling back to the beginning, to the very first scene. You can derive so much pleasure from watching this film, in so many different ways, and from so many different aspects. Such a violent spectacle, but one with so much depth and so much to appreciate. This is us
me
at our most masochistic. Alright, so that was a long one. Thank you guys for coming to the video and checking it out. Hopefully you'll like the video down below. Comment if you have anything to say at all. All comments are appreciated and I read every single one of them, I promise you. And if you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe because I will be uploading... I try to do it weekly, so if you want to see regular videos from me, I have my Oscathon series and I also do one-offs like this every so often. Although this is the first one, so anyway, again, thank you for watching and see you later.